I give Brad Treliving a lot of credit. Like, I don't know many people that thought they would get a 100-point player, a legit top four, probably top two right defenseman, a first rounder, and a prospect. Now, I understand that Huberdeau and Weegar both have to sign, for that trade to look better. But even if only one of them signs, you get a first, a legit player, and a prospect for Matthew Tkachuk. It's not as dire as it looked. Like the Thursday before the trade, Frank, that you broke, people in Calgary were just like, "Oh my, are they going into a rebuild? What are they doing?" And literally, that trade really changed the mindset of a lot of Flames fans.
Yeah, it puts them right back. You could even make the argument now back in the driver's seat in the Pacific. And we'll get to our guest a little bit later on, John Klingberg, who signed with the Anaheim Ducks on a 1-year, $7 million deal. One of the things Klingberg said in our interview was the Pacific is wide open. Well, the Flames were probably a team after losing Tkachuk and Gaudreau. And had you not known what the return for Tkachuk was, you'd say probably not even a playoff team, not in the mix. Now, all of a sudden, you take Johnny Gaudreau and replace him with another Hart Trophy candidate and, similar type skill set in the sense of his creativity, his dynamic playmaking ability. And all of a sudden you go, well, there's not really any drop off there. It's going to hurt losing Tkachuk, but their back end is going to be pretty solid now. They've always had the goaltending. I don't know. Like I think that team is still right there. And now, people were asking me for the grade of the trade, and I know you had just hit on it, but with those two guys being pending unrestricted free agents, that'd be like asking me on draft day to grade winners and losers. Like you don't know for, in that case, 5 years. In this case, ask me again in March and I'll give you a grade on the trade.
Yeah, I said at the time, the potential of the deal is quite good for Calgary. Now, Florida, that they signed Tkachuk to a $9.5 million deal. They clearly felt like they needed a different mix to their team, right? Like I like the Huberdeau for Tkachuk. I'm like, okay, 100-point guys. They're different styles of wingers, no question about how they play, right? Kachuk's more of a finisher. Huberdeau is definitely a playmaker. He doesn't have the edge that Tkachuk has, but he's ultimately highly skilled. What did you make of it from a Florida perspective?
I love it. And this isn't me being Pollyannish at all when I give this answer. I like the trade for both teams because if you're Florida, you're getting a player who's just entering the real prime of his career at age 24. You now have him locked up for the next 8 years, and he's an absolute unicorn in the NHL. There are so few players on the planet that can do what Matthew Tkachuk does, not just from a skill perspective, but a size, a meanness factor, and the energy that he brings. He's one of those heartbeat players. He's the heartbeat of the Calgary Flames. He was for the last number of years. And now he's going to a Florida team that is loaded with talent. And with all due respect to Alexander Barkov, who I think everyone believes is a great leader and obviously a fantastic player, I just think the energy in that group is a lot different now. You have someone, and I don't want to say that Alexander Barkov doesn't grab the bull by the horns, but in this case, it feels like they have someone in Matthew Tkachuk that can do some of that to take some of that requirement off the plate of Barkov, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it totally makes sense. I think it adds just a different element.
He's not an in-your-face guy, Barkov, right?
No. And Tkachuk was, although the only negative about the Tkachuk trade is that we don't get to see Tkachuk and Evander Kane go at it more, because I don't know if you saw Kane response. Like, clearly there's no love lost there. Kane in an interview just said basically, because Matthew Tkachuk, really, you didn't notice him in games 2 to 5 of that series. And Kane said basically that he goes, hey, some guys can chirp, but they don't like it when you chirp them. So, I wish we'd see Florida and Edmonton play more often in the future. I like any rivalries where guys literally don't like each other. But Tkachuk will go in. The Tampa, I'll tell you right now, Tampa
He said it right away.
Tampa and Florida fans, that rivalry's pretty heated. It's only going to intensify because Matthew Tkachuk almost single-handedly brought the Battle of Alberta back to life. He started it, right? And then Cassian, of course, snapped, and then that led to the goalie fight, and it was something that you hadn't seen in a long time in Alberta. And I suspect, even though the Florida-Tampa series has been pretty heated, Tkachuk just has an unreal ability to annoy people and infuriate them. And it's going to be fun to watch because those are two really good teams.
Yeah, and I love that he said it right off the hop in his initial press conference. I used to hate Edmonton, now I hate Tampa. What I love about the trade, though, is that the Battle of Alberta stays on. Because, go back and read the quotes, read the tweets on social media in the days leading up to the Tkachuk trade. Everyone was saying, well, the Battle of Alberta was fun while it lasted. The reason the rivalry heated up was, yeah, the tension was great, but it was also because you had two really good teams.
Yep.
And now Calgary still has the opportunity to be a really good team, while I think Edmonton is going to remain one.